Hey, Indira, welcome. Hope you're muted.
Hey everyone, hey Steph.
Yay. So, what makes this meeting a little different is it's saying that you already are what you seek. You already are it. You already are, we can call it presence. Presence is always present, and you're always present.
It's so weird that the thing that's asking if it's present is present.
Yeah, 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 it's a mystery. This talking to itself, this listening to itself, this sassing itself. Like, really, the basis of non-duality really is not two. The presence isn't owned. Nobody owns presence. That's the beauty. It's free. It's it's funny. I would say it's paradoxical because it's both completely not personal, completely impersonal, and yet it's the most personal thing to you. It is you. And we can get lost in the mind for a few decades,
Mhm.
seeking what we already are.
Many decades.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Manny, here was no fun. Was not, I didn't enjoy it. It was torture. I prefer finding, finding meaning, oh, it was here all along. Like the seeking actually, you overlook it. If you're looking for what you already are and it's always present, but you don't notice that. So that's why I
Mhm.
say it's more of a noticing than
Mhm.
a doing.
Yeah, recognition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I was with somebody today that had a stroke, and his wife is saying that she lost him. He's no longer there, memory-wise, mind-wise. And he still functions and stuff, but uh, she feels like she, he's just not her husband anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot with Alzheimer's patients. Uh,
Yeah,
I saw a really beautiful way to handle it if you're ever in that situation. A young man was meeting his mother who had Alzheimer's, and she didn't she didn't remember that she was his mother. So he
yeah.
approached her and said, "Hi, how are you?" And she said, "Fine, how are you?" And he said, good. And he goes, can I tell you about my mother? And she's like,
Mm.
sure. Well, she was the kindest woman you could have ever met. Oh, really? And he proceeded just to lavish her with all the wonderful things. And she thought he was talking about someone else.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was taking care or helping to aid um, about several years ago this woman who had Alzheimer's. And I was even able to see back then that she was okay, but she kind of like lost her identity. The story about her was fading and fading and fading. And she went through these stages. And then at the last stage, it was like she was like a child.
Hmm.
And I can remember telling her how beautiful she was. Like I would just say, you're just so beautiful, just telling her that. Um, and then what you said also, Michael, about paradoxal, it's seen like that. It's like it's so intimate and yet it's not intimate. You know, it's in wording what this is. It's so close and yet it's not close. It's here and yet it's not here.
We're wanting the story to continue in the other and to affirm us, kind of. And and this is about, just being without the story. But the story's okay and things.
Hmm.
But when the identity is not there, it it gets terrified.
Mm.
The people around them get terrified, even more so than they do. Of course, that's the thing. If they're not angered or kind of striking out, but they're just peaceful. They're just there. It's almost like the awareness is there, but there's no memory of past experiences.
Mhm.
And this is about being and noticing the thoughts that hook into our past experiences, and but they're not ours. They're not. I don't own them, and that's hard to explain to somebody that's terrified like that, especially the relatives and stuff. And what happens lately is that when they put them in assisted living, it drains all of their resources, all the money that they saved, and they have to sell their houses and they have to go through all of this in order to keep them alive, but yet they're not there to them, see? And they sometimes say that, well, why didn't they just go in their sleep or something? Yeah, it's touchy subject. Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of something I wanted to talk about or ask about is, um, and I don't know if it's relevant, but okay, here goes. Uh, the feeling that I've had lately in realizing that these whatever arises, let's say that it's anger or something is said that maybe shouldn't have been said or whatever it is, realizing that that is all consciousness too, that it's like it's not, there aren't like bad thing. I mean, there aren't things to be condemned for and things that are good things and bad. It's just all it's beingness angering, I guess you'd say, or and for me, it's such a relief to know that, but I don't know if I'm just relieved from like this fake person that thinks they're a person or what, but I feel relief knowing kind of realizing that it's just not real, or I don't know, it's not me. But then of course then there's not a me. That's the bad news either. I don't know if I'm rambling or make any sense at all, but that's something I've been thinking about.
That's beautiful. That sense of responsibility as a human feels very solid, feels very heavy. And once it's seen that there is no responsibility and that there is no one here, but that these emotions that arise are not personal and they're arising, and then I can see it as just arising rather than my feelings, my hurt, my anger.
Yeah.
It's so different. And I agree with you. For me, it's extremely fucking freeing. Excuse my French, but yeah, it's just very freeing. It's light, and there's no more legs to hang on to. So yeah, I feel the same way as you do, Steph. Yeah,
Yeah, relief. I guess it's relief.
Yeah. Relief that I don't have to be in control.
But you know,
The illusion of control. There's no controller.
the other thing is that this 80s guru that Manny and I went to, or that's how we met, was one of the things that he would say is there's this banquet that's spread and you're settling for crumbs.
Mhm.
And it just made me realize that, this the vast, you know, the good news is that there's this vast thing, and then the bad news is that as well, because of that little terrified thing that doesn't want to let go. Um, but I don't know, it's kind of going, it doesn't seem as intense as it used to, luckily.
thank you, Steph.
Okay, since Manny brought up kind of a sensitive edge, I'd like to carefully bring something up.
Go
And it's
Sid.
go Sid. And it's kind of the nothingness and the somethingness. Again, this is kind of where I often go, but it's become very real since I saw you all last. Um, where it's the emptiness in the form, or it's the like feelings that come up. We can go to there, there's no one here feeling them. They're just sensations. But then we can also we find that there is someone here having the experiencing, but we can see the very nature of the one that's experiencing. And I don't know if I'm in kind of the wrong place to even be talking about this, because because Indira's freedom, where there's just kind of no one here, it's just this emptiness, and it's just you can feel the freedom of that, but it plays so differently in my system. Like I'm almost going the opposite way to immersion. It's almost like it's almost like going with the electron microscope, going fully in instead to the immersion as Sid, and through going so deeply into Sid, deeply into there are lots of feelings of sadness. There was something kind of horrible happened in my life in the last week, and it's like, in going deeply into those feelings of sadness, it's like you find that the sadness is love, and then the light of being, the being that shines through, and that's what I'm kind of exploring, just a sense of immersion in and as the personal, which opens up into kind of it's a very similar place, but in a very different way. That's what I throw out.
You know what that reminds me of is Sidness is when you get up. So it's sort of like the microscope thing that you just said, but when you get so close to something that it, like if you look at a dog, is it the ear? Is it the paw? Is it the tail? Is it, and then you look at the fur, and then you really get into the fur. And then when you get into the fur, then you're like in this cosmic place that's the dog cosmos. So maybe you're just going into the Sid cosmos. I don't know. That's just that's what came to my mind.
You can move on if it doesn't resonate. It's how it's playing in my system these days, and that's all I got.
It resonates here. What you said, Sid.
Agreed.
Almost like some of these concepts shared here make sense on some level, but they're not in a typical logical way. It's almost like I feel that to be true.
Mhm.
Experience of what you're saying feels truthful in my body. I can't articulate why I own it as my truth. It just has a resonance about it. So just speaking to the subtlety of these things registering sometimes.
I think opening up and being vulnerable sometimes leads us to actually feel what's always there. What's what's sometimes we block it. I block it with the Maniisms. This idea of, oh, uh, I need to be strong, or I need to don't show the emotions. Don't be okay with opening up to something that's already here, and the presence of this moment. Everything is okay. Then the thought comes up and it wants to try to figure out why it's feeling the way it's feeling. And then it gets lost in that drama in the story. But it's never lost in the story. It's just the consciousness or awareness just kind of focused on something that's apparently real. And I believe, I buy it. When I'm caught up in it, it's just, that's all there is.
Mm. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
perfect.
that's because it's one. It's just,
Yeah.
it's just one expressing itself as that.
And
Yeah.
so, and so your experience, thank you, Sid, for sharing that, is beautiful. It's a beautiful expression of where you're at. And also, you were talking about the sadness. So that's just where you're at with the sadness. Sometimes sadness comes up here too.
Mm-hmm.
So it like, yeah, there's such an okayness with where you're at, Sid. It's beautiful. You're so expressive and open and curious, and it's just beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Indira. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for receiving how it's playing here.
That the thing of was it Dominic that was just saying that about just you like that I felt what you said, Sid. I knew that was true. I felt that too. but I didn't know. It's like the whole business of feeling like I have to listen carefully or something. It's like Tony Parsons. He always says, "Don't listen. Just don't even listen." He said, "As long as you've paid money, as long as you've paid your," that's his little joke, you know. As long as you've paid your money, it's cool. Just don't listen. And it's he likes to joke around, but point being that he said what's going on here is so much more, I forget how I expressed it, more huge than the words. It's not the words, you know, it's something else. It's something else that happens. And that's how I feel about this meeting is that um, yeah, it's something else that happens. And a lot of times if I'm not sometimes if I just let it if I just receive it rather than trying to like hear it, then I get a lot more out of it. Um, of course, I guess that's generally true. So instead of trying to, one thing that I'm doing, sorry I'm talking so much, is that I'm just not as invested anymore in every little freaking thing. It's like, God, I I'm so tired of yeah, just being so invested in what people are thinking and how what I have to do, you know, and I just, the man that Manny was talking about is my Tai Chi Sifu, my teacher, and I'm the assistant. And I've been the assistant, and I thought, well, hey, I can take over, no problem. Well, then now he's had these strokes, and I have taken over, and it's absolutely terrifying. It's scary. And so I'm identified with him. And yeah, I just have to let that go because Manny visited him and spoke about him in a more loose way. And I'm going, what do you mean? It's like I got all almost upset, that Manny was going, well, he's just doesn't have any memories, and I'm going, yeah, but he's not there. Anyway, I just could see how I got all excited about it. So I do still get excited about stuff, but some things are just, they're becoming thinner or more transparent. I don't even know how to say this right, but it feels really good not to be so extremely invested in every single little thing, um, is all I can say. I know that for sure. So. There's a keyboard thing that you can mute yourself with, and I forgot what it is. Anybody remember what that is? It's like control something? No? Okay. We'll use the mouse.
Grab that mouse. Hey, Casey.
Hello.
Hey, Casey. Welcome.
Thank you.
Seth, I really appreciated what you said there. Um, what's registering for me along kind of parallel is this notion of I can let go of these details. I can be less invested because I'm relating to the truth that we all share. So whatever you're saying, whatever words are occurring here, whatever feelings arise, I'm just connected. I'm just in tune. This is just a moment of connectedness. Why do I have to chase some details and have some sense making experience layered on top? I don't. I can just be here in this moment, content with the sharing, whatever form it takes, because we're just here as one.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Like we're all playing in the same sandbox.
Michael, I just wanted to ask you, in regards to life giving us these supposed lessons so that I could give up my identity with a separate self in some way, but there is no separate self, and I just have to just be. But it's almost like things are presented to us so that I could let go of my dependence on whatever I'm depending on. Like like the wife of this Tai Chi teacher, she was she's done everything practically now, and but she's still in. I sat with her a little bit for about 20 minutes or so right outside the building, and we were talking as far as what she did and how she feels, how fearful it is because she was so dependent on him. And and it's almost like life gives us the thing to let go of that false dependence because it's not, the dependence is on the wholeness, the source of life, the aliveness right here, right now. That's never not here. It's always present. And but we depend on other people, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But at some point, we're given the opportunity to let go, and then we resist. And that's the pain. The resistance is the pain. And and that's also included in the package, in the story. Not much of a question.
I was waiting.
That was beautiful.
I guess,
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's all you everyone's it's so beautiful because a word that I would use instead of awakening or enlightenment is authenticity, being authentic with whatever's arising. It's not a denial.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Oh,
go
like
down.
it's like I don't know why, but like depression is this is deep conversation, and it's like I'm getting there's a lot of depression going on right now over here, and and if I sit with it, if I allow it, don't try to change it much, it seems like right underneath it there's this love that wants to express, but there's this layer of depression that just sort of sits over it a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Just that it's like the depression and love can be together
Mm-hmm.
or no separation, and it's like, or I don't know. It's it's very beautiful. I mean, this depression here is like very beautiful because it's not. I'm not trying to hide it.
Yeah,
Yes,
No,
that's
or change
great.
it. I'm not trying to change it either.
that's that's
Yeah.
ding ding ding. That's what I meant about being good, Don. Authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, there were a couple of days about, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks ago. I don't even know what it was about, but I had like 3 days of the feeling of depression. And there were some ideas of why. And it's funny because I don't even remember now, but the resistance was to not go there. Like I
Yeah.
can feel the
Mm.
resistance, but there was a movement to it anyways. And didn't this journey is not always going to be bliss and peace and sitting under a bogey tree. It's nothing like that. It's for me, this feels like full on being human, which means experiencing every range of emotions there are. And yes, there's stories that come up with it, but like what Stephanie was saying, I can relate to. It's there's a seeing that there's stories, and then there's a sense felt of the emotion, and then there's the resistance that doesn't want to go there. So there's like a watching over all of this, and it
Sure.
doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. It feels like shit, you know? And I'll be honest, you know, I'd be lying to say that it feels wonderful to feel the grief or the sadness, because it doesn't, because it's not supposed to. But the mind, for many years, would try to come in there, you know, and say, well, let's do something, or let's try to be busy, or, you know, I don't know, do whatever, just to avoid what
Mhm.
is happening right here, right now. And so it's about being fully human and experiencing all the emotions, including the thoughts that come up with it. The difference is it's experienced for those 3 days and felt, but then the next day it's not here. There's no hanging on to why it happened. It's like I don't even remember, whereas there was more of a memory of why everything happened. It was so important to
Mhm.
hold on to the interpretations of the emotions. It can be held on for a moment, of course, natural thing to do. But like what Stephanie was saying, the same thing here. It's just like seen, felt, feels crappy, and then there's no more movement to put attention on the stories anymore. And that's the freedom of it, is like feeling like crap and not holding on to the interpretation and just allowing it to be. And then the next day and the next day is proof that there's freedom, because I can't even remember what it is, which is what was done so for a seeming long time here, is just holding on to stories, which was the suffering.
Mhm.
Mm.
I this is where it's really fascinating listening to what Don was sharing. So there's some depression, and then I'm going to kind of I'm going to kind of generalize, Indira, with what I hear in your system is there's just this realization, basically, of an imperturbable beingness that's kind of, even though I'm hearing exceptions, it's mostly untouched by experience. Happens, there's awareness of it, but it doesn't hold anymore. It's the weather that's passing, and that there's a resting as this that's changeless, that's imperturbable being, that's untouched by anything. Like that's one way. And then I often speak of kind of another, the kind of the inverse of that, which is almost, it might be some of what I was hearing from Don, which is maybe like, whoa, even like not just there is depression, but I'm feeling depressed. And there's a sense of we're in it, or this is where I go. And there's more like there's going into the, oh gosh, what's my word? Like going into those feelings and going into it's an imminence. There we go. It's an imminence. It's not this. Instead, it's an imminence of being in the depression. And in that, as we rest there, as we sink into that, it can take us to the same place, because if we can really, just what Indira was saying, we're not resisting it anymore. We're not trying to make it different. We're just being with this, that I was getting some from Don, to being with the depression, that it becomes, the beingness starts to shine through. It becomes a little bit, or thinner. Maybe Steph was using the word thinner, or like or even transparent is what Rupert calls it. When we're in with the content, it becomes more transparent. And so, I mean, I'm curious how that plays in you, Don. Like, I love how Indira described her experience with this.
Definitely less suffering. Like when I used to have some depression pretty bad for a couple of years, and the thoughts like to come in and try to they are like the little pieces of shit, because there's feelings and then there's these things trying to be like, why is this happening to me? What is wrong with me? How come? this and it I used to be happy. Like all these, but if the words are just blanked out, kind of depression can be intimate.
Mm.
It's still terrible, but like it's not, I don't know, it comes and goes quicker. It seems like there's less suffering because there seems to be suffering in the thoughts and the maybe it's tied in with that identity thingy,
Mhm.
like me.
It was beautiful, Casey.
Like,
Mhm. Mm.
This is kind of reminding me of we had never read Peter Brown, and we were reading Peter Brown, and one of the things he said is like if you see a little cloud up in the sky, you just think it's this little, separate little cloud up in the sky, but it's actually part of this massive worldwide weather system thingy, and it's not, and it's in no way separate unto its own. And I was thinking about that, like with thoughts, or even like depressive thoughts. It's like it's part of the whole big shenanigan. It's a perception. I don't know. The other day, for the first time, I've never really watched. Everybody always says watch thoughts. I mean, he's saying watch thoughts since the 80s, for God's sake. Okay. And I've never been very successful at watching thoughts, not really, honestly. And for the first time, I saw this thought that was just saying this thing to me, and it was like separate, and it was almost shocking because I don't know, I just never saw thoughts as almost being this separate entity. I just took it so, I'm just so hooked apparently that I just have always accepted it. And so I loved that illustration about like a separate thought is not a separate thought. It's part of this whole of consciousness of the movement of reality. It's part of everything. And so, uh, in a certain sense, I don't have to like separate it out and say this is bad. I don't have to listen to it. I mean, just on that level. And then on the positive side, everything is just for us. I mean, I just feel like everything is much more for, I mean, it's not me personally, like the universe is bending down. Um, but I just feel like things are more benevolent than I had ever imagined. If I'll just stay out of it and keep my mouth shut. And that's all I got.
Just let it be.
that's some good advice, man.
Hey, Jenny Cedarholm, welcome back. Long time no see. I was just thinking about you. So funny to see you.
Yeah, it just popped into my head, and I've been working and I'm not working. I'm like, oh, I think it was Wednesday night, so it feels good to be here. Thanks for still being
Yeah,
here.
Yay.
yeah. Mhm.
So I like the analogy of the weather system because that's kind of what it is. Whatever brings clouds will also take them. So whatever brought the depression, it will also take it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Or yeah, but also the depression is it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it comes and then it goes. It appears that way to us, but I'm suggesting that the depression is it
Mm-hmm.
totally. No, you can cut it off right there. It is it.
Well, yeah, that's just like saying the wave is the ocean. The ocean is the wave. They're not two. So it's both. It's the human as human can be, you know. It's the ailments, it's the dementia, it's the depression, it's the wanting the depression to go away. What's wrong with that?
It's the avoiding of it. as well. Because if you didn't avoid it, then it wouldn't be so bad.
Well,
But
actually, Casey, you're already not avoiding it.
I know
You're,
I'm
you know,
already not avoiding it. But I
well,
used to avoid the moment if it wasn't a happy moment, if I was depressed,
yeah.
you know, that was not okay, not acceptable, did not want to. But not so much now. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Well, what can be noticed is when we're in our mind, that's when we're negotiating with whatever's showing up. But if you notice, you're the presence. You're prior to whatever the mind, whatever story the mind's touting. Um, I gotta say, at a certain point, there was almost, and again, this is just a story, but it was almost like putting my foot down. Like, I'm not my mind, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care how many times it gets me. It still doesn't make me my mind. And there was a freedom in that because then the mind could do whatever it needed to do. It was cool. And it's pretty powerful because suddenly there's like maybe for the first time you're showing love and acceptance to your own mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Michael, it seems like the pain got so bad that you put your foot down and said,
Yeah,
I don't want to feel this way anymore.
you got it. It was no
Yeah,
joke, man. It was hair on
yeah,
fire.
it gets so painful that you just come back home. You run back home. It's almost like
Yeah.
let me out of here.
Well, that's the joke. It's the home you never left.
Yeah, yeah,
Not funny
yeah.
though. It's funny now. Uh,
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I joke about it, but really, if I could put my finger on one thing, it was sort of seeing that I almost like it had to be non-negotiable. Like it was like your mind will continue to suck you in because it likes the attention.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but the mind is an attention whore. Can we call it what it is? And as long as you don't know that, you'll go along with it. You'll completely be sucked into every story every wave will get you. But this is a deeper this is already, you're already what you are. So suddenly there's a freedom to let the mind sort of play in a way.
Mhm.
I really like that I don't care how many times, putting how many times it whoops up on me or I fall for it or I get kicked around. I am not my mind.
Yeah.
Sadhguru has, that many of you probably know, has the mantra, I am not the body, I am not even the mind. And he just repeats that over and over again. Of course, that can lead to denial. That can lead to craziness because I tried that practice for a little bit and you can get enlightened, I'm sure.
Well,
Made me more crazy. It's
Oh,
just a
your
big
mind
old
are like,
denial.
sure, you're not. Okay, buddy.
well, so the mind will even make this all dramatic, but really it's very simple. Think back to when you were 1 day old. You didn't need a mind when something took care of you. Life did, the nurse, your mom, dad, whatever. Something life took care of you when you were 1 day old because you didn't have a mind set up. The ego hadn't set up shop yet.
No language yet. No concepts.
So nothing's changed. Life is still doing everything, just like with that 1 day old baby that you once were. It's just the illusion that we're the doer. We never, no one's ever done anything.
And I was pondering today that people were, because I have some time off, they would say, well, what are you doing tomorrow or the next day? And I remember I used to feel like I had to come up with, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. But now there's just no, I mean, there is planning, of course, paying bills and taking care of certain things, but it's like I just do the day. There's no whatever and it's I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I know that I'm going to be taken care of. I know that whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I wake up in the morning, have tea, and I just go with the flow. There's just going with movement with the flow, and what needs to be done gets done. Okay, I gotta wash my clothes. I didn't even think about that the day before, but that becomes much more. It has become much more fluid and lighter. There's just no more legs, attached to having to do something each day or a plan.
Indira, would you say when you describe that this is a tricky word, enjoyment, but would you say that there's really an enjoyment of what is, of whatever arises? Because as Casey speaks of the paradox of even including resistance, that in your system now that everything that arises is just kind of enjoyed?
It's more like a lightness. It's just lightness. Does that make sense? Lightness. Feels light.
Mm.
Just feels light.
To me, it feels kind of like just indifference.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that indifference, when you say light, that's kind of what it's like indifference, like
Yeah.
Like,
Content.
yeah.
Yeah.
but not in like I don't care way, but in
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
too.
It doesn't have to go my way.
Right.
Although when I was listening to that thing where Leela was reading that thing of yours, Michael, the wave and the anyway, I was listening to it while I was driving around, and all of a sudden I pull up to this intersection, and I could not figure out how these car it was the weirdest feeling. I felt like it was one of those things like where you see every once in a while on YouTube or something where all these cars are circling the Arc de Triomphe or somewhere in Italy, and you're wondering how they're getting in and out of the intersections, but it felt like that, like how on earth are all these cars getting to where they're supposed to and not crashing? And I don't know, it was just strange. It was like out of body or something. I don't, and yet I just take it for granted, and I go busting in there with my car, but it was weird. It was, we're on autopilot so much and just not there. I think
Yeah.
maybe I just suddenly became there, and it was almost scary, but I don't know.
To the mechanical machine, it's scary. Yeah, to the thought self that just runs my life. Yeah.
I guess it'd be like if I suddenly had to beat my heart or something, or do one of those things, or breathe or something.
It feels freeing. To me, it feels freeing. That's all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
lighter. Did you say lighter? I thought that was.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Very light.
good.
It all seems to point to the letting go, the I'm not holding on to me, my concept of me so much. And it's almost like, no, I don't want to let go. But then when I do, it's such a relief. That's where the freedom is. It's just, oh, I didn't even know this was available. And, but it's not available to me, the thought self that's trying to bait me into doing something else and keep me on that merry-go-round, just
Well,
going
yeah,
around and around.
Yeah.
it's just like there's no freedom for Santa Claus, you know?
No, I don't. What do you mean by that?
Well, Santa Claus is a fictional character. What's he going to do with
No
freedom?
freedom for
Oh,
no.
oh.
No freedom for
So the me is a fictional character.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting because we everything has a unique perspective. This is so unique. Like your awakening, whatever you're going through is perfect for you because nobody sees your world. Everybody's world is completely unique. Every bug, every animal. You know, I just went to the San Diego Zoo looking at the lions and the cheetah was badass. That guy, jeez, man, he's right in front of you. You don't even see him. Amazing. And everything is just doing its thing. Everything's on autopilot. No one's doing any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Programs.
Yeah.
I think I need a T-shirt though that says "No freedom for Santa." I always think of T-shirts.
That can be your side hustle, Michael. Some
Yeah,
of these singers on shirts for.
that's Leela and I were just talking about this today about how we can put some of our quotes on T-shirts and drum up some income.
Oh yeah.
There it is.
And then there's, I still, now I'm getting back to, I think what Sid was talking about, if I understand him right. It's like there's the thoughts coming up and saying, I'm not the thoughts, or putting my foot down saying, I'm not going to listen to you anymore, or any which way. Or there's that other side, like, no, the thoughts are maybe more valid than we're giving them permission, than we're giving them credit for, that they are something to be, investigated. They're like, they're gifts to be received, not to be thrown away, not to be let go of, but to be received and fully embraced and loved. I like that word. Just fully embracing them, and that's the gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I'm getting Sid right there, if I'm anywhere near what you're trying to say, but I love this two-sided thing we're doing tonight. We're going like, and
Yeah.
I know we're talking about the same thing. I know that, but it's like, go ahead. I'm done.
What if, and yes, Don, yes, yes, yes to what you're saying. And then it can go further. What if beyond the sense of embracing, almost beyond the thoughts being separate from us, like we play with how intimate can I be with this sensation, with this thought, with this depression, with this desire? And instead of, it's just a little different than what I get from the Indira move of the and I love that place, but it's like going the opposite direction into this intimacy beyond intimacy, and there's no subject object in that, and then it takes us to a very similar place.
Well, when I see the thoughts that come up too, like what you were saying, Don, I really like that. That was for me the change, because it's like I was seeing the thoughts as innocent and not as an enemy, and it was trying to help in its own dysfunctional way. It's trying to help. And so when I'm seeing them, I remember being in a bus last year, and I was just sitting there going to work, and just watching these thoughts come up one at a time, or complaining or whatever. But I didn't look at it as a bad thing. I looked at it as them as, even though they are not an entity, the sense that I get from the thoughts is that they're trying to help in their own toxic way.
Yeah.
It's almost like being a mother to the thoughts, and so instead of, there was no resistance, there was no pushing, I was just smiling because I was seeing them for the first time in this way, rather than as an enemy or as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so where are they after that? I don't know. They're gone.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Mm.
The innocent part.
I also like the idea of leading your thoughts, this idea of being the parent to your thoughts. versus letting your thoughts lead you. It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I found here was when I let my thoughts be, they let me be, you know? Like whatever thought showed up.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, there was not, no.
Dang it, enough.
Or even that, even if the opposite came, it didn't matter what it said. It was, I
Yeah.
was all, it was like, okay, like not
Yeah.
a problem.
Mm.
Like a loving allowance. Some words I heard, a loving allowance of the thoughts.
Yeah. And they can say anything. I mean, some of the stuff I can't even repeat. It's like Tourette's, you know? I'm like, that's not very spiritual.
Right. So before I know we're ending in a few minutes, Sid, I know you say you lead a lot of groups, and I was just wondering how I would connect into those groups. I love what you say. So
Oh.
if you're taking new people in, or
Oh, please. It's all free. It's effortless IFS, effortlessifs.com. Go just sign up and you'll get the invitations to free
F,
groups. Come play.
effortless ifs.com.
Correct.
Thank you.
Well,
But when I say that, I can't touch what I feel in Indira's, and so Indira, please, if I'm reframing yours in ways that Sid, you're just missing it. I am missing it, and it's such a joy where when you and Michael are sharing and Mandy's sharing, and there's so much of this that can't be. I'm just kind of grasping at. So thanks for playing with me.
I think you're simply beautiful. It's perfect. Thank you.
It's all accepted. That's what Rupert said. Even the worst thing, to accept it and allow it to be here for the rest of your life. If you're willing to do that, then it's part of the whole, as opposed to, no, get out of here. I don't want you. Yeah. And it keeps on popping back up. That's what thoughts are doing, emotions are doing. They're popping up to try to be part of the essence of who we are, that source that's that one thing.
yeah.
And then we're saying, no, get out of here.
Well, there's
You're
so
not welcome.
much, Manny, there's so much.
Beautiful.
There's so much happening right where you are right now. Your heart beating, your eyes blinking, the sound of my voice, your bum on the chair. But when thoughts are telling stories that are being believed, they have this magical ability to block out everything else. That's what I mean by thoughts are attention whores.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are
Mhm.
I remember years ago I said, no more torment. They were tormenting me. They just over and over and over again. And you in Los Angeles, you would recognize I was going over the Vincent Thomas Bridge
Yep,
on,
been
on the
over it.
way,
Yeah.
yeah, on the way
So
to a gig. Yeah.
So before we close out tonight, I will give that out. If you are seemingly like it can, and I understand it can happen where you're like lost in a loop, an energetic thought loop. One of the things you can do, if you can, sometimes we can't, we're caught up, is you put your attention on outside sounds that are present with you, a bird chirping, a car honking, something other than the thought. And then notice one other thing, the wall. And so what you're doing is you're taking some of that energy that was like focused on the thought and you're starting to disperse it.
And then
And
you start to see there's no problem, but it was only in the thought.
Yeah.
just thought it was a problem.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And not
uh,
being present with what is. Yeah.
if you enjoyed this, Indira, myself, and Jenny are going to be doing another Zoom Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So if you're on my email list, you'll get an email, but it's Zoom link this Friday, the 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Right.
All right.
Any
Thank you,
last
Michael.
comments or questions before we close out this evening?
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank
Loved
you,
it.
guys.
Loved
Thank you,
it.
everyone.
Love you,
Take
Mwah.
Michael.
care.
Have a
Yeah.
great night, everybody.
Hmm.